Have you ever felt like you're your own biggest obstacle? Like there's this invisible force just holding you back, even when you know exactly what you should be doing?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah,
That feeling is, well, it's incredibly common.
it really is. It's this, universal thing, striving for something, seeing the path, and then bam, somehow you're getting in your own way.
It's like you're setting up the game and then tripping yourself before you can even play.
Exactly. It's frustrating.
It really is. You make the plans, you see the goal, but there's this undercurrent maybe,
Yeah.
something pulling you back.
Yeah, resistance.
Right. And often you don't even realize what it is until you're stuck in the same loop again, asking, how did I end up back here?
That internal friction. That's exactly what we're digging into today. We are taking a deep dive into self-sabotage. We're drawing insights from Brianna Wiest's work, specifically The Mountain Within, Overcoming Self-Sabotage.
Really powerful book.
It is. And the core idea, the thing that just cuts right through, the mountain you're facing is not outside of you. It is you.
And that's huge, isn't it? Because it shifts everything.
No.
For you listening, this isn't just about breaking a bad habit or needing more willpower. It's deeper.
Deeper how?
It's about understanding that the real roadblocks, the things stopping you from living the life you want, they're often internal.
Inside us.
Right. And our thoughts, our emotions, our beliefs,
Yeah.
it's an internal landscape we're dealing with.
So what's our mission then for this deep dive? What are we trying to help you, the listener, figure out?
Okay, so our mission is kind of threefold. First, we want to unpack why. Why do we sabotage ourselves? Get to the roots.
Makes sense.
Then what does it actually look like? Because it can be sneaky. We need to recognize its different faces in our lives.
Yeah, the practical side.
Exactly. And then most importantly, how do we start to transform these patterns? We'll explore real steps, insights, perspective shifts.
So you can unlock that potential.
Yeah.
Become that truer, more capable self.
That's the goal. Transforming that inner mountain from a barrier into, well, a path for growth. Okay, let's unpack this.
Right, let's start with that core metaphor, the mountain. Wiest makes it clear this isn't some literal peak out there.
Right, not Everest.
No, it's the inner stuff. The blockages inside us that we have to climb over. It's our internal terrain.
And that distinction is just.
Yeah.
It's crucial. Because right away, it stops us from blaming everything else.
Yeah, the circumstances, other people.
Exactly. It forces us to look inward. Now, a huge misconception about self-sabotage is that it's just laziness or weakness or lack of motivation.
Right, we beat ourselves up thinking that.
We do. But Wiest really challenges that.
Yeah.
She says fundamentally, self-sabotage isn't a character flaw. It's actually a coping mechanism.
A coping mechanism.
Yeah.
Wow, okay. So it's not that we're inherently bad or lazy.
Not at all.
It's something our system developed to cope with something difficult.
Precisely. It served a purpose once, likely a protective one, even if it's holding you back now.
That reframes it completely.
It does. And this ties into one of her most powerful insights. She says, you are not lazy, unmotivated, or stuck. After years of living your life in survival mode, you are burned out. There is a difference.
Oof. Let that sink in.
Right. It's not about lack of effort. It's about burnout. Your system, your mind, body, nervous system has been on high alert for so long trying to protect you.
That it's just exhausting.
Exactly. Exhausted. And what looks like sabotage, putting things off, withdrawing, losing drive, it's actually your system trying to conserve energy, trying to protect itself from more perceived harm.
So it's a signal, not a failing.
A profound signal that something deeper needs healing, needs attention.
Okay, that makes a world of difference in how we approach this. So if it's not just laziness, how does this mountain, this coping mechanism actually show up? What does it look like day to day? Because I bet a lot of people don't even recognize it as sabotage.
You're absolutely right. It often flies under the radar, disguised as something else. Wiest points out several common ways it shows up. You'll probably recognize some of these.
Okay, let's hear them.
First up, good old procrastination.
Ah, yes, my old friend.
Right. But it's not just putting off laundry. Self-sabotaging procrastination is often about avoiding the discomfort.
Discomfort of what?
Of starting something hard, or the fear of it not being perfect, or even the fear of what happens if you do succeed and become visible.
So the subconscious whispers, if you don't start, you can't fail.
Exactly. Or if you don't finish, no one can judge it. It's a way to stay safe by staying stuck.
Which leads perfectly into that analysis paralysis thing, right? Getting lost in planning forever.
Oh, totally. That's a classic. You're researching, planning, thinking. You feel busy, you feel like you're doing something.
But you're not actually moving forward.
Not an inch, you're just orbiting the task.
Yeah.
It's a very clever way to avoid the risk of actually doing it. And that ties directly into perfectionism.
The need for everything to be flawless.
Right. Which sounds noble, like striving for excellence. But it often just paralyzes you. Because the fear of not being perfect stops you from finishing or even starting. You keep tweaking, polishing. It's not quite ready yet.
When really, it's the fear of judgment underneath. Or fear of falling short.
Or even fear of what success might bring. It's like polishing one button on a coat so obsessively you never actually wear the coat outside.
Great analogy. Okay, so procrastination, perfectionism. What else? You mentioned fear of success. That one always seems weird. Why fear success?
It's a paradox, isn't it? Consciously we want it, but subconsciously, success can feel like a threat.
A threat.
Because it's unfamiliar. Our system might be wired for the comfort zone, even if that zone is struggle or limitation. Success means change. New responsibilities, maybe higher expectations, more visibility.
Maybe leaving people behind.
That too. For a system prioritizing safety and predictability, even a positive big change can trigger alarm bells. So it pulls you back to what's known, even if what's known isn't fulfilling.
Wow. Okay, so it's not just about not doing things, it's also about actively doing things that harm us, like staying in bad situations.
That's a very sharp point.
Yes.
It's also about maintaining patterns that don't serve you, staying in a job that drains you, a friendship that's toxic, a relationship that hurts.
And the subconscious comes in there again.
Absolutely. Consciously, you might know, this is bad for me, I need to leave. But subconsciously, the pattern might feel safe, familiar, predictable.
But how can a bad relationship possibly feel safe? That seems completely illogical.
To our conscious mind, yes. But Wiest explains it brilliantly. To the subconscious, stability, even negative stability, often feels safer than the unknown terror of change.
The devil you know.
Precisely. Breaking free means facing uncertainty, loneliness, maybe failure, the effort of starting over. The familiar pain, however bad, can seem less threatening to the survival-focused subconscious than the void of the unknown.
That really highlights how deep these mechanisms run. They started as protection, but now...
Now they're the bars of the cage.
Okay, this is fascinating and honestly a bit unnerving to think about how deep these patterns go. If they're coping mechanisms, not just laziness, the big question is, where did they come from? How did we build these internal mountains in the first place?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? And Wiest traces the origins. Often the seeds are planted in childhood trauma.
And trauma doesn't always mean one huge event, right?
Exactly. It can be subtle, repeated experiences. Feeling unsafe, unseen, unheard, learning that expressing your true self wasn't okay, or even dangerous.
So you learn to cope.
You learned ways to adapt, maybe staying small, people-pleasing, avoiding conflict, never getting too excited. These become the early blueprints for later self-protection, which can look like self-sabotage.
Those early blueprints really stick, huh?
They form the foundation, and then you have social conditioning layered on top.
Messages from family, society.
Right, about who you should be, what success looks like, what's acceptable. If you learn struggle equals worth, or vulnerability is weakness, or ambition is selfish.
Those messages sink in deep.
They do. And they can create internal conflict later if you try to break out of those molds.
And all of this leads to what she calls limiting beliefs.
Exactly. Those fixed ideas we hold about ourselves and the world. I'm not smart enough. I don't deserve good things. People like me don't succeed.
Ouch. Those sound familiar.
They're pervasive. And they aren't objective truths. They're interpretations based on past experiences and conditioning. But they feel true.
And they shape our actions.
Absolutely. They become self-fulfilling prophecies. We act in ways that confirm our beliefs. Wiest also points out something crucial. We often build our identity around past pain or what we think we aren't.
Defining ourselves by our wounds.
Or by the roles we played to survive. Not by our potential. So the starting point for any real change, any healing, it has to be self-awareness.
Seeing the pattern, understanding the story behind it.
Precisely. You can't change what you don't acknowledge. If you don't know why you react a certain way or where that fear comes from, you're just reacting on autopilot. Awareness gives you choice.
Okay, so understanding the roots is key. But what happens if we don't face this internal mountain? If we just let these patterns run the show? What's the real cost?
Oh, the cost is significant. And it builds over time. Wiest points out that living beneath your potential creates this constant low-grade internal tension.
Like a background hum of dissatisfaction.
Exactly. Deep down, you're capable of more. There's a gap between who you are and who you could be. And that dissonance is just draining. It sucks the joy and energy out of life.
It feels like you're betraying yourself, in a way.
A profound way, yes. And while doing nothing, staying stuck might feel safer in the moment.
The illusion of safety?
Right. It avoids the discomfort of change. But long term, it breeds much heavier emotions. Bitterness starts to creep in.
Bitterness about missed chances?
Missed chances, maybe resentment towards others who seem to be moving forward. Often it's bitterness at yourself. Then there's often a quiet kind of depression.
From unfulfilled potential.
Yeah, like mourning the life you're not living.
Ah.
And deep resentment. That's a heavy one. Resenting the situation, maybe yourself, maybe the world. These are the burdens you carry when that inner conflict isn't addressed.
So the mountain doesn't shrink if you ignore it. It actually grows.
It gets bigger, more entrenched, harder to climb later on. It's like ignoring a crack in the foundation eventually. It threatens the whole structure. Which leads to a really powerful, maybe even stark quote from Wiest about the price of transformation.
Okay, what is it?
She says, "Your new life is going to cost you your old one."
Wow. Okay, your new life is going to cost you your old one. That's intense.
Yeah.
It's not just a nice idea. It implies a real sacrifice.
It absolutely does. It demands honesty.
Yeah.
What are you willing to let go of?
Like what needs to be sacrificed?
Old habits, definitely. Even the comfortable ones. Old identities that don't fit anymore, even if they feel safe.
Relationships, environments.
Potentially, yes. Things that kept you small or limited, even if they offered some security. It means trading familiar comfort zones for the possibility of real growth.
It's a significant trade-off.
It is. But Wiest argues it's the necessary price for the life you truly desire. It takes courage.
So change is hard. It involves letting go, but it's essential. If we accept that cost, what's the very first step towards actually making that change, towards transformation?
It starts, perhaps surprisingly, not with fighting, but with acceptance. Stop resisting the patterns.
Stop resisting. But isn't the whole point to change them?
Yes, but think about it. When we resist something, we often give it more energy. We judge ourselves, we push it away, we pretend it's not there.
And it just pops up somewhere else.
Exactly. What you resist persists. So the first step is to simply turn towards it, observe it, without judgment. Just acknowledge, okay, this is happening. I see this pattern.
Just noticing.
Just noticing. That simple act of non-resistance, of conscious acknowledgement, creates this space for change. It's accepting the ease before you can move towards the could-be.
Okay, this is where things get really, really interesting for me. The book heavily emphasizes emotional intelligence. Now, we hear that term a lot, maybe in business contexts.
Right, like a soft skill.
Yeah, but you're saying it's actually the master key to overcoming self-sabotage. How does that work?
It's absolutely fundamental. Because think about it. Most self-sabotage isn't driven by faulty logic. You know rationally what you should do.
Right. The plan is clear.
But then you feel something. Fear, anxiety, discomfort, boredom, unworthiness. And that feeling drives the bus. It triggers the old pattern.
Ah, okay. So emotional intelligence helps manage those driving emotions.
Exactly. It's about understanding what you're feeling, why you're feeling it, and crucially learning how to process those emotions without letting them hijack your behavior.
So not being controlled by them.
Right. Being the observer of your emotional weather, not the boat tossed around by the storm.
So it's not about not feeling difficult things.
Not at all. It's about learning to sit with discomfort. That's a core practice. Self-sabotage is often an attempt to escape discomfort, anxiety, fear, boredom.
The quick fix, the distraction.
Precisely. When you learn to tolerate those feelings, to just allow them without immediately needing to numb or avoid them.
You break the cycle.
You dismantle the core mechanism. You teach your nervous system, hey, this feeling is uncomfortable, but it's not actually dangerous. I can handle this. That builds incredible resilience and self-trust.
Okay, that makes sense. And this ties into identity, right? If the old identity is built on pain and coping mechanisms, how do we build a new one, a stronger self?
This is so empowering. It just makes it clear. Identity is not fixed. It's not set in stone.
It can change.
Absolutely. It's shaped by our repeated thoughts, beliefs, and crucially, our actions. So the principle is you rebuild your self-concept by acting like the person you want to become.
Fake it till you make it, but maybe more. Intentional.
More intentional, yes. It's not about being inauthentic. It's about aligning your actions with your desired future self, even before you fully feel like that person.
Huh?
You want to be someone who exercises. You act like it. You put on the shoes. You go for the walk. The identity shift follows the action.
Action first, feeling and identity second. Okay. What techniques does she suggest for actually doing this, for shifting that identity?
Several powerful ones. Visualization is key. Not just daydreaming, but deliberately, vividly rehearsing your future self in your mind.
Seeing yourself succeeding, reacting differently.
Yes. Feeling the emotions of that success, that competence. You're priming your brain, making the new reality feel more familiar and possible.
Creating new pathways.
Exactly. Then there's journaling. Such a powerful tool for self-reflection.
How does journaling help specifically with identity?
Well, first, it helps you see the old patterns clearly. Thoughts, feelings, actions. But more than that, it's a space to consciously write your new story, to articulate who you're becoming, process the feelings that come up, define the new narrative. You become the author.
I like that, authoring your new identity.
And then daily intentional habits. Small things, done consistently.
Like what kind of habits?
Could be anything that aligns with your future self. 5 minutes of meditation, making your bed, planning your top priority for the day. Doesn't have to be huge.
But the consistency builds proof.
Yes. Each small win reinforces, I'm the kind of person who follows through. I am capable. It builds self-trust, brick by brick.
Okay. Visualization, journaling, daily habits. Anything else?
Rewriting your inner dialogue. This is huge. Actively catching that negative self-talk.
I can't, I'm not good enough.
All of that. Catching it, challenging it, and consciously replacing it with more empowering statements. It takes practice, vigilance, kindness to yourself.
But over time, you change the internal soundtrack.
You become your own supportive coach, not your inner critic.
Now, the subconscious, we hear it's like 95% of the driver. How does Wiest connect the subconscious specifically to these self-sabotage patterns?
It's absolutely critical.
Yeah.
Because that 95%, that's your automatic programming.
Yeah.
So consciously, you can want something with all your heart: success, love, health.
But if the subconscious has a different program,
It will likely win. If your subconscious believes success is unsafe, or you're unworthy, or pursuing that goal needs abandonment or pain, it will hit the brakes. It will find ways, subtle or overt, to sabotage your efforts.
because its prime directive is safety, based on old programming.
Exactly. Safety and survival as it learned it, often in childhood. So even if consciously you want the change, the subconscious might be screaming, danger, retreat.
It's like having one foot on the gas and one on the brake.
A perfect analogy. You create immense internal friction and go nowhere fast. So the real work is reprogramming that subconscious.
How? It sounds hard if it's so automatic.
It requires consistency, not force. Wiest emphasizes repetition, emotion, and visualization. You're gently, persistently carving new grooves in your mind.
What are the tools for that, for reaching the subconscious?
She highlights a few key ones. Affirmations, but, and this is crucial, they need emotion. Just repeating words blankly doesn't do much.
You have to feel it.
Yes. Connect the words to a genuine feeling. Recall a time you felt that way, or vividly imagine feeling it. That emotional charge makes it stick for the subconscious.
Okay. Affirmations with feeling. What else?
Inner child healing, which we'll get into more detail on, addressing those foundational beliefs formed early on, and directly addressing limiting beliefs. Identifying them, I'm not worthy, money is hard to come by, I always mess things up, and actively challenging them.
How do you challenge them effectively?
You look for evidence against them. You question their origins. You consciously choose a new, empowering belief and repeat that one with feeling and visualization. It's like weeding a garden and planting new seeds. You're actively reshaping your internal landscape.
Okay, so we've identified the patterns, their roots, the subconscious drivers. We get the theory.
Yeah.
But the big question is, how do we actually break them in the moment? Day to day.
Right, the practical application. It starts with a core principle. Awareness is more powerful than resistance.
We touched on that, not fighting it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
When you feel that old urge to procrastinate, lash out, overthink, the first most crucial step is to just pause. Create a tiny space.
Between the trigger and the usual reaction?
Yes. Instead of just automatically reacting, you pause. You observe the urge without judgment. There's that feeling, there's that impulse. And then, from that space of awareness, you consciously choose to respond differently.
That pause is everything.
It's where your power lies. This is what she calls creating pattern interrupts. Intentionally doing something different, anything different, from your usual automatic reaction.
Like if I usually scroll my phone when stressed.
Maybe you stand up and stretch instead,
Yeah.
or take 3 deep breaths, or walk outside for a minute,
Yeah.
anything to break the chain reaction. Wiest actually outlines specific steps for breaking a pattern effectively.
Ooh. Okay, let's hear the steps. This sounds super useful.
Okay, step 1, identify it. Name the specific pattern clearly. Procrastinating on my creative project. Getting defensive when I receive feedback. Be specific.
Got it. Identify. Step 2.
Trace its origin. Briefly reflect. Where might this have come from? When did I start doing this? What purpose might it have served initially? This builds understanding, reduces self-blame.
Okay. Origin. Then what?
Step 3, and this is often the toughest. Feel the emotions underneath. Allow yourself to actually feel the discomfort driving the pattern. The fear, the anxiety, the shame, the boredom. Don't push it away. Just let it be there, observe it.
Sit with the discomfort.
Yes. Process it, don't suppress it. And finally, step 4, choose a new action. Deliberately pick a different response, even a tiny one, that aligns with who you want to be. This is where you actively install the new programming.
Identify, trace origin, feel emotions, choose new action. That's a powerful sequence. Okay, now let's talk about something that sounds heavy. Shadow work. What exactly is that, and how does it fit into dismantling this internal mountain?
It can sound intimidating for sure, but it's incredibly important and ultimately liberating. Shadow work is about facing the parts of yourself that you've pushed away, denied, or suppressed, the parts you deem unacceptable or bad.
Like what kind of parts?
Often it's emotions like jealousy, anger, rage, shame, greed, fear. But it can also be positive things we've suppressed, maybe ambition or power or vulnerability, if we were taught those were wrong. These form the shadow self.
The parts we don't want to admit we have.
Exactly. We create this idealized version of ourselves and shove the rest into the dark.
But they don't just disappear down there, do they?
Not at all. That's the key. Ignored shadow aspects don't vanish. They fester, and they leak out sideways, often in destructive ways.
Like through self-sabotage.
Very often. Suppressed anger might fuel passive aggression or sabotage success. Suppressed shame might drive crippling perfectionism. The shadow exerts its influence unconsciously.
So the goal isn't to get rid of the shadow.
No, the goal is integration. To acknowledge these parts, understand them, maybe even see the hidden gifts or messages within them, and make peace with your whole self, light and dark.
Accepting all of it.
Yes. As we says, and it's so true, you cannot heal what you won't face. You have to be willing to turn towards the discomfort, the parts you'd rather ignore, with compassion.
That requires real courage. And it sounds like a lot of deep personal work. Which raises the question, who's responsible for doing all this healing? Our parents, society.
This is where full ownership comes in. And it's crucial to distinguish ownership from blame.
Okay, how so?
You might not be at fault for the things that happened to you, the childhood wounds, the conditioning, the traumas. Those were external forces. But you are responsible for your healing from them.
So fault lies in the past. Responsibility lies in the present.
Beautifully put. It's about empowered accountability. Recognizing that while the past shaped you, it doesn't have to dictate your future. You hold the power to heal now.
It means not waiting for someone else to fix it.
Exactly. Stop outsourcing your happiness, your validation, your growth. If you're waiting for external circumstances or other people to change before you can heal or thrive, you're giving away your power. Taking responsibility means knowing you are the primary agent of change in your life.
Liberating, but also no excuses.
Right. The buck starts with you.
You mentioned inner child healing earlier as a tool for subconscious work. Can you unpack that a bit more? How does healing the inner child help overcome adult self-sabotage?
It's deeply connected, often foundational, because so many of those self-sabotaging patterns are the coping mechanisms learned in childhood.
The ways we adapted to feel safe or loved back then.
Exactly. If being small kept you safe, you might sabotage visibility as an adult. If seeking validation was how you got attention, you might sabotage independent success. The inner child is still running those old programs.
So inner child healing is about updating the software.
In a way, yes. It's about reparenting yourself, giving that younger part of you, the part that still carries the wounds, the fears, the unmet needs, what it didn't receive back then.
Like safety, love, encouragement.
All of that, consciously, as the adult you are now.
How does that work in practice?
It involves acknowledging those old wounds, validating the child's feelings, the fear, the sadness, the anger without judgment, sitting with that younger self compassionately. And then, as the wise, grounded adult, you consciously offer a new response. Instead of letting the wounded child's fear drive the bus toward sabotage, you step in. You offer reassurance. You choose a different, healthier action based on your adult capacity.
So you're moving from reacting based on old pain to responding from present strength.
Precisely. It's an act of deep self-compassion and integration. Healing those early imprints allows the adult you to operate more freely, less encumbered by those old survival strategies.
Okay, this definitely sounds like an ongoing journey, not a quick fix. How do we keep the momentum going? How do we actually sustain these changes and make sure we're genuinely rewiring our brains?
It is ongoing, and that's okay. The key is leveraging neuroplasticity.
Yeah.
Your brain's amazing ability to change. It takes consistent intentional effort. And a big shift is how you relate to your emotions.
We talked about sitting with discomfort.
Yes. And taking it further, seeing emotions not as enemies, but as messengers. Valuable data.
So if anxiety pops up,
Instead of just reacting, you ask, okay, anxiety, what are you trying to tell me? What's the message here? Is there a real threat, an unmet need, an old echo?
treating it like information.
Exactly. And when you combine that emotional intelligence with consistent habits, journaling, mindset shifts, you are literally changing your brain.
How so? Physically.
Yes. Every time you choose the new response over the old pattern, you strengthen the neural pathway for that new response. The old pathway gets less traffic, weakens. You're paving new roads in your brain. It's real physiological change.
So it really emphasizes that it's not about one massive breakthrough.
Absolutely not. That's a myth that trips people up. Wiest hammers this home. Lasting change comes from daily disciplines, small, consistent actions.
They compound over time.
Massively.
Yeah.
Like drops of water carving stone. She offers some great journaling prompts to help with this daily reflection.
Oh yeah, you mentioned those. What are some examples? They sound really helpful.
They really cut through the noise. One is simply, what am I avoiding?
Straight to the point.
Right. What task, feeling, conversation are you dodging? Another powerful one. What am I afraid will happen if I succeed?
Tackling that fear of success head on.
Exactly. Uncovering those hidden anxieties about what achievement might cost you. And maybe my favorite, who would I be if I let go of this belief?
Wow. Challenging those core limiting beliefs.
Yes. It helps you envision the possibility beyond the constraint, see the potential self. Engaging with these, honestly, can unlock so much.
Those are gold. Okay, beyond journaling, what other daily habits help build this self-mastery and keep the transformation going?
A solid morning routine is huge. Doesn't have to be elaborate.
Just setting the tone.
Exactly. 5 minutes for breathing, stating an intention, quick gratitude, planning one priority. It's about starting proactively, claiming your day. Creates an early win.
Makes sense. What else?
Regular emotional check-ins, just pausing briefly. What am I feeling now? Why? Prevents stuff from building up and triggering reactions. Goal tracking is important too. Breaking big goals down, tracking small steps. It builds momentum, provides evidence of progress.
Seeing that you are moving forward.
Yes. And finally, combining gratitude and visualization. Gratitude shifts your state, opens you to positivity. Visualization keeps reinforcing that future self, keeping your subconscious aligned. These aren't just fluffy practices. They're brain training tools.
They build the scaffolding for the new you. I love this idea of the future self as the North Star. How do we actively make space for that person? How do we really embody them?
It's an active creation, definitely. The key question we suggest asking regularly is, what would my future self do today?
Using it as a filter for choices.
Exactly. How would the financially free version of you handle this money decision? How would the calm, centered version of you respond to this stressor? It pulls you forward, guiding your actions from your highest potential, not your old patterns.
Acting as if.
Yes, consistently. And this also means being willing to release attachments to who you used to be.
Letting go of the old identity. That sounds hard.
It can be. The old self feels familiar, known, even if limiting. But you have to shed the old skin to grow into the new one. Acknowledge it, thank it, but gently let it go.
And finally,
Embrace outgrowing. Be okay with outgrowing things that no longer fit the person you're becoming.
like relationships, jobs, old dreams.
Yes. It can be uncomfortable, even painful sometimes. But it's not failure. It's a sign of profound growth. It means you're evolving. You're climbing your mountain. And that's a beautiful, courageous process. Hashtag tag outro.
Wow. Okay. So we've really covered some ground today. We've seen that the mountain, that big obstacle, it's not out there. It's inside. It's our fears, our coping mechanisms, our patterns.
And the really hopeful part is self-sabotage isn't some fatal flaw. It's a signal. A signpost pointing towards unmet needs, unhealed wounds, things that can be addressed.
Absolutely. And we've walked through so many pathways to do that. Self-awareness, healing the inner child, facing the shadow, mastering emotions, rebuilding identity through action.
And anchoring it all in those consistent daily practices.
Right. So, as you, our listener, reflect on everything we've unpacked today, maybe take a moment. Ask yourself honestly, what's one mountain, one pattern of self-sabotage that you see more clearly within yourself now?
Just identifying it is a huge step. And then building on that awareness. What's one small, consistent daily action you can commit to, starting right now today, that aligns with the future self you want to become?
Remember, climbing that internal mountain, transforming those deep patterns, it happens one step at a time, consistently, day by day.
Your future self is waiting for you to take that next step, to begin.